Hello and welcome. I'm Alexi Robichaux, CEO and co-founder of BetterUp, and I'm thrilled here today for a discussion with PAU GASOL. That's right, PAU GASOL, the NBA superstar, a six-time All-Star, four-time All-NBA selection, and two-time NBA champion with the Lakers. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce you to our guest, PAU GASOL.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Alexi.
Well, I think it's very clear to many of our audience why elite athletes and professional athletes would have coaches. I always love this quote that our friend and researcher Adam Grant likes to say that, before meeting BetterUp, he never heard of coaching in the business world without the word executive in front of it. And so I'd love to understand from you, I know you're a big believer in everyone should have a coach for whatever they're achieving and focused on in life. Maybe you can share, where does that inspiration come from and what's behind that belief for you?
Well, to me, I have this mindset of constant learning, and that you can learn from anyone, and that you can't do it on your own. And that coming together makes whatever journey richer. So to have guidance, to have mentors, to have a desire to read and learn from others, that is, to me, very inspiring, very energizing. And I've had, I guess, the privilege to play sports and always have coaches around me since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I took that for granted. I was like, oh, this is just how life works. The figure of a coach is so clear and so obvious in the world of sports, but it also should be normalized and so obvious in any type of business. And we all need someone to provide knowledge and guidance, perspective, tools for us to grow and to do better. And we can always do a little better. So that's what BetterUp is so appealing, attractive, and exciting for me, in order to provide coaching, have coaching accessible to everyone out there, that because we all need it, and it's beautiful to come together and to learn from each other and to have more mentors, and then you can share that knowledge that you've acquired to others, and just to share, connect, enrich. It's, to me, it's so energizing, and I believe I'm a huge believer in it.
Well, I love that. I want to frame that quote. It's beautiful to come together and share and learn from each other, because I think that's true, and that's what organizations and that's what teams at their best are, right? Sure, they're a unit of performance, they're a group, but I think from an individual standpoint, they're a community where we get to come together and we see iron sharpen iron, and we get to hone our craft, we get to learn from one another, and that progressively pulls out the best in ourselves that, in my experience, sometimes we don't even know we have in ourselves, right? When we're really good teammates and we're in the zone and we have that flow state together, what we find is there's more raw, untapped potential, and sometimes more strengths and more gifts that we never left to our own devices would have discovered. And for me, that's what's so beautiful about coaching. And it's just really cool to hear that from you, given you're someone who, like you said, your whole life, you've had the benefit of coaching. Well, I want to talk about all. We talked about making coaching available for all and helping everyone realize their potential. And you've been a strong and a really, I think, just encouraging advocate for equity in sports. And you actually helped write an open letter to the Players Tribune, where you defended equal opportunity for women coaches. And you used the impact of Becky Hammon on your career as one of the examples there. And you also accompany with the LinkedIn post. By the way, PAU writes awesome LinkedIn posts. So if you're not following him on LinkedIn, you're missing out. Titled Equality in Sports, Something for Everyone, which I think is just an amazing, even way to frame it. And you said, I just want to quote this so our audience can hear your words here. You said, I truly believe that providing equal opportunities to new generations will lead to positive impacts on the health of girls and women and society as a whole, and will get us closer to achieving full equality in professional sports too. You mentioned earlier the racial injustice that's come to light and sadly has been enduring for much longer, but recently I think is getting some well-earned attention. And organizations around the world are at this really critical inflection point in that route right now, where they have the opportunity to make significant progress on diversity and inclusion and equity across dimensions of identity from race to gender to ethnicity. How do we lead a cultural transformation or a culture change towards more equity and inclusion in your experience?
Well, I think we need to continue to talk about it first, but also to take action towards it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's no secret. I think there's more and more data out there that the more diverse companies are more successful.
That's right.
You know, and so it doesn't get very much simpler than that and more direct than that. I think there is a tendency sometimes to surround ourselves with people that we can relate to, or that we feel more associated with, or more comfortable with. But I think there's just so much untapped richness and power on making sure that we don't do that, and we fight that instinct, and we put ourselves with people that don't agree with us, or that come from different backgrounds and different cultures, and provide a different perspective, because we don't need to have people that validate our thoughts and opinions and make us feel good about what we believe in or we think. We need people to question those and to provide a different insight. And I think that's where, like, that's where you get to another level, right? And as an individual, as a group, as a company. So I think that's just going to be more and more established, and I'm glad that we're trending in that direction. And as far as equality for opportunities, I mean, that's just something that, again, needs to be more broadly discussed and put on the table, and again, taking action into providing more opportunities for women to play sports, to if you wanted to become a professional, whatever it is, golfer or hockey player or track and field runner, or that you have the same opportunities that any other person would have, and to be able to say those things and break all these stigmas or perceptions that have been out there. Why wouldn't Becky Hammon be able to coach an NBA team? Why would she only be qualified, or think that she's only qualified to coach a WNBA team because she's a woman? She's a great coach. She's a fantastic coach. She was a fantastic basketball player that I had an opportunity to see and watch. But she's become an amazing coach, and I hope and I feel that she will get that opportunity, and she will prove that a woman can lead and coach an NBA team and be successful. And I think several teams have already considered her and interviewed her as for head coaching position. Awesome. And I think it's a matter of time. She's been under Greg Popovich in San Antonio, and their culture and their great group of coaches and organization. And I think she will get that opportunity at some point, and and I look forward to that. But and in so many other cases, so I think we have to continue to do what we can and what we need in order for providing an equal playing field for everyone, and for girls or for anyone from any ethnicity or race to have the same dreams as any other boy or person. And that's where we're onto something. Now we're making this world a better place.
That's right. PAU, we've talked a lot about coaching, and it's something that's been transformational in my life, and I know you're here because it's been transformational in yours. Would you mind sharing a particular experience, or we sometimes at BetterUp like to fondly call them micro epiphanies, that maybe came out of a conversation or a moment with a coach that really helped shape who you are today?
Yeah, a couple moments come to mind. I've had, I mean, we probably could talk about 100
sure.
or hundreds of them.
You have a career worth,
right?
A life worth,
but I think a couple moments come to mind. One was the moment or the year that I got into the NBA, and I was a rookie. It was 2001 with the Memphis Grizzlies. I came from Barcelona. I never set a foot in the country, in the United States, before I got drafted in that June of 2001. And then I got selected by the Atlanta Hawks that traded my pick to the Grizzlies. And there's a lot of expectation on me. The whole country, I had like about 300 people that flew from Spain in a private plane, a private charter, to watch my first game in the NBA. So I'm a 21-year-old. I'm pretty nervous. I'm pretty confident on my skills, and that's why I'm there. But I am so eager to perform well. I'm so eager to show the world that I belong, that I'm special, that that I'm a great player. And so my first 3 games, I played super tense, super nervous, overly excited. Like I wanted it so bad, and I'm feeling my dream. I'm finally in the NBA. But because of wanting it so much and overthinking it, and the tension and the pressure, it was overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So I'm making mistakes. I'm not thinking straight. I play a little hesitant, tentative, and that leads to poor performance. So after the 3rd game, we'll play at home, and I just, I'm so upset. I'm so frustrated. And I started, I go from the locker room to the weight room. It's kind of through a hallway. It used to be through a hallway. And I go there just to be alone and be away from my teammates, because I don't want them to see me cry, because I break down in tears. And one of my veteran teammates at the time, Lorenzen Wright, may he rest in peace. He came to me and he sees me. He's like, "Pau, what's going on?" It's like, I'm sorry, I'm just so upset. I'm just so frustrated. I'm not playing well. He said, "Pau, you're a great player. You're very talented. You just gotta let it come to you. Mistakes will happen. You're gonna be okay. There's 79 more games to play. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. So it's okay. You'll be fine. I'm not worried about you at all. You're a great player." So those words from a veteran teammate that kind of didn't really have to do that. And that see me, this 21-year-old that just got there from Spain, that doesn't speak English very well, and to go out of his way to provide those words made a huge difference. And then the next game, I got the opportunity to start and to play more minutes, and my career, my year took off from that moment on, just because I just let go of all that tension, of that fear of making mistakes, of I can't make any mistakes, I can't miss a shot, I can't turn the ball over.
Right.
Well, basketball is a game where mistakes happen, and because it's such an intense game, and life, mistakes happen. Obstacles come along, and you just got to go into the next one, and not carry that mistake into the next decision, to the next moment. Right. So I took off. I played a great game on the 4th game, and I started every game from then on, and I became the Rookie of the Year that season. So I was the first European player in the history to win that award, and those words were really helpful. So that's. So don't underestimate the power of reaching out to a teammate, to a coworker, especially when you see that he or she is struggling. So that's, to me, the lesson there, because sometimes we just have a tendency to kind of look the other way, or say, "Well, I'm sorry, but I got other things to worry about," and connecting with each other and providing a hand when it's needed, it goes a long way. Then the other story is from and I'm not, it's kind of coincidental, but it just comes to mind because it's from Kobe and his leadership style, and it's a story that it's been out there, and he himself shared it more than me, so I'm just gonna repeat it because it's a story how he how much he wanted to win, and his leadership style and motivating me, because I'm a pretty calm person overall. So sometimes you just need to poke me a little bit to get that aggressive and competitive side. Not the competitive. I'm pretty competitive at anything and everything. Sometimes too competitive.
Get you fired up. Yeah.
But to get me fired up, exactly.
Yeah.
So I get traded to the Lakers, and we lose that year. We get to the finals, which was, I think, a big step and success, but we fall short against the Boston Celtics in '08. So that was very painful to go through, but it was important for us to go through it, for myself also as a player, as a stepping stone, because I did feel like I could have done better or I wasn't prepared enough. So we then the summer we had the Olympics in Beijing, and we played a great Olympics. We faced probably one of the better or stronger USA teams in the finals, and Kobe was part of it, and they beat us. It was a close game, but Kobe made some big plays down the stretch, and they took the game from us. So then we go back to training camp. First day of training camp, I get to the locker room, and Kobe's already there. He was always one of the first ones. He always put in the work more than anyone. And I get to my locker, and in my chair there's a gold medal the gold medal from the Olympics. And I'm like, what? And so as soon as I see it, I turn around and I look at it, and there's Kobe giggling, and he left his gold medal in my chair. And he said, Kobe, what are you doing? And I said, look, we lost against the Celtics. You lost against us this summer. Let's not make it 3 in a row this year. Let's go make sure that we win out this year. And I was already in, I don't like to lose at anything. I was in all the way, but that was his way to kind of emphasize that point, and for him to motivate me to give my best from that day on forward. And it was just by putting that medal in my locker, which is a proactive action, strategic measure that he went out and did. So he would motivate me to give my best and to go the extra mile, get the extra work in, and make sure that we won the championship, which we ended up doing against Orlando that year.
PAU BetterUp was built on the foundations of sports psychology and positive psychology, which is particularly relevant to what we see happening in the world today. One topic that's really been brought to the forefront during this pandemic is the topic of resilience, specifically how leaders, teams, and organizations can proactively build resilience in these trying times. We love to hear about the experiences that shaped who you are and how you sustain performance and maintain a resilient mindset in responding to the face of adversity.
I think resilience is such an important part of success, of achieving your goals. And it's such an important quality as we're going through very difficult times today. To me, resilience comes when you're doing something that you love, that you're passionate about, that you firmly believe in, and that you enjoy. And for instance, when you're playing, I played basketball for a lot of years, for most of my life, at a very high level, and I loved the game. I loved it since I started playing, since I was a kid watching my parents play, and I got into it because of it. Then I grew taller and taller and taller, and kind of worked out really well for me. But I just love the game, and I just had fun playing, even when I was pretty bad at it. So the resilience comes from wanting to be better, from wanting to put in the extra work, the extra effort, to dig in, and to push you through the obstacles, the adverse times. And the more resilient teams are the ones that fight through those times more successfully. And then we're talking about then team chemistry and culture and team unity and being a cohesive team, all that will help as well. But being resilient, it is so important and it's so critical to achieve excellence, to achieve success, to achieve your goals, basically. And so you can never undermine or overlook the importance of being resilient, especially again during times like this where we all kind of trying to figure things out, trying to understand what's going on, trying to find answers, security, safety, and it is important for us to stay with it, to wake up every day, trying to hold the fort and make sure we continue to do the things that we need to do and control what we can control. There's only so much that we can, but let's just focus on that. Let's try to find ways to be impactful, to learn from this experience, and to come out stronger.
That's really well said, Pal. And I love your emphasis on passion. Angela Duckworth at University of Pennsylvania is a friend of BetterUp, and she talks a lot about grit, which is very related to resilience. And really that grit is this ability to persevere in pursuit of this passion. And I think that's often what's overlooked as we think about resilience, as we think about being gritty, as we think about not just surviving the pandemic, but actually flourishing and thriving in the face of adversity and uncertainty. Having a clear sense of purpose, having a passion around that purpose is something that almost like animates and energizes our soul to have that extra oomph to get us through that. I'm curious because you've worked with some of the best coaches, right? And right. Phil's one of these top coaches, but he's also the Zen master, right? And so how do you think about what we call inner work or focusing on yourself and cultivating introspection and centeredness as related to being able to perform at those elite levels in the face of adversity?
Well, it's very, very important. I think all the work that you can do, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. Sure. Recovery is just as important. Mental work is just as important. I think Phil was the one that introduced me to meditation, to mindfulness, and we used to do team sessions in the video room or in locker rooms if we were on the road, where we all kind of connected spiritually, through silence or through guided meditations. And it's just as important to kind of bring the team together in those sessions, because you feel a certain level of interconnectedness within your teammates in a way that you didn't know before or you didn't experience before. So it's also a time where you visualize a lot of the things, and there's a lot of pressure in basketball. When you get to the NBA, there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of distractions, and you got to quiet the noise. You got to limit those distractions so you focus on the task. And I think that mental work and mental preparation, it is so important. And then that's on the job, that's on the team, but you can also do it away from it, and from watching tape to studying your opponents. That's something that Kobe used to do a lot and used to emphasize a lot, which is to put in that extra time at home and that extra effort to prepare, to be ready mentally and physically. And that's also, again, very, very important stuff. To find out things that provide you with balance for you to be at a better state overall. And for me, it was always connecting with nature or connecting with the world of arts, because it was such a big change of pace and within what I was doing, the intensity, the grind of the competition, the pressure, the scrutiny, that I needed that in order to be in a better place and to be able to perform at a higher level, to be more balanced overall. So all that is important to excel, to be better at whatever we do. And visualization, it is an important part of, if you can see something, then you can do it. Right. But if you don't see yourself doing that, it's hard for you to execute it. So that's why it's so important that you first visualize it, and then you're in the moment and things flow. And that's when, a lot of players in the world of sports, you call it being in the zone. and then just things just flow because everything kind of comes together. You've been there before, been there, done that. Now things just happen naturally and organically. So I think that there's a lot there, and Phil being the Zen master and being great, one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach of all time, he was just fantastic at it.
Yeah, it's so well said, and I feel this skill of visualization. I've in building BetterUp, I've had the privilege of talking to athletes like you and Sean White and Rebecca Soni, as well as elite operators in the U.S. Armed Forces like the Navy SEALs, and it's almost like for us who are in the creative economy or white collar workers, I feel this is like a magic wand we don't know exists. That there's this evidence-based approach from sports psychology of being there and visualizing. And everything from positive self-affirmation to literally doing the reps in your head and seeing that moment before it comes, that can really drive that performance and a sense of mastery and confidence in the moment. So I think we could geek out on visualization all day, but I wanted to pick up on something you said, which was, about really ordering yourself and centering yourself and spending time with your thoughts and reflecting and visualizing. It occurs to me that not just only happens personally, but it happens organizationally. And what we're seeing right now as we look at the world is organizations are facing a tremendous amount of uncertainty while they're also seeing rising expectations of performance. And you wrote, Pal, this, I'd recommend it. We'll send it out to folks. I thought it was just so insightful and so beautifully written in its prose, your article on LinkedIn about getting excited about uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Can you share what are some of these positive outcomes that you think will result from the current circumstances? And then I'd like to talk about how we orchestrate that as leaders, not just on the personal level, but on a team or organizational level as well.
Well, we are going through, there's no question about it, uncertain times, very adverse times, and where our lives have been completely disrupted in different ways, and we've been threatened. So what can we do? Well, I think to me, it's about, first of all, stopping and reflecting. All right, what's going on around me, and what can I do? How much can I do? How much should I do in order to protect my well-being and the ones that I love? And that starts at home, and then you can extrapolate it to your company or to your work environment. So it's time to be innovative, to be creative, to figure things out, to find solutions and answers to situation that we haven't really faced before. So uncertainty provides an opportunity for growth, where it could be, you could have a sense of fear. You could have a sense of, oh my God, what's going on? I'm gonna have to shell myself. And those are maybe natural instincts at times to kind of protect yourself. But after that first maybe instinct, you have to say, you know what, there's opportunities here for me, for my family, for my team, for my company. And I just gotta come together with everyone and discuss them and come up with ideas. So embracing uncertainty, it's something that that I've been able to do throughout my career. I think life teaches us many times. Unfortunately, there's a lot of events that are out of our hands, and we just have to adjust. We have to get through them, and we have to learn from them. So hopefully, when something similar happens again, we're better equipped to deal with them. And to me, being in the NBA, which is a big business, you can be traded pretty much at any point. And I've been, unfortunately, a part of a lot of rumors of being traded here and there. Actually, one trade was almost done to Houston back in the day in 2013, and it was pretty much closed. But the NBA, because they had part ownership or significant part of ownership of the New Orleans Hornets at the time, vetoed the trade, which I think is unprecedented. And all of a sudden, something that pretty much was a done deal. It got undone, and then I was still with the Lakers, and I played for a couple more seasons with the Lakers at that time, and that's just the nature of the business. There's nothing personal. But it affects you. And then there were more rumors after that, and there's always rumors. So nothing is really for certain, right? And you have to live with that. But at the same time, you have to enjoy life. You have to go through it, and you have to make the best out of it and control what you can control, right? And that's what we can. Like when we're at home, if we're sheltering in place because of the virus, and there's all these restrictions, you can create a routine at home with your household members that it's healthy and it is productive and is for everyone. So you have to be proactive. So start there, and then it goes and it translates into your team. Connect with, what we do with my team, whether it's in the business side or whether it's in the foundational side with the Gasol Foundation. We come together and we have sessions where we just connect with each other and say, hey, how is everyone doing? Let's just first of all connect with each other in a time that we're separated and we're so distant in a way that we're not accustomed. And technology is providing us ways to connect and communicate, but it's not quite the same, right? So I feel like putting ourselves out there a little more and having more of personal conversations and emotional conversations, it's important. And you'll be surprised how many people just break down, and they need that. They need that support. And what we've gone through with this, the last few months in the country with the social unrest, it's just, we needed to have those conversations and connect with each other at a deeper level that we ever have. So again, those are the things that you can embrace. There's always a silver lining. There's always an opportunity. Even, I love the phrase, the quote is, don't ever let a good crisis go to waste. So
yeah.
Right. So let's just take advantage of that, and we don't choose the times that we live in, but we choose how we react to them, how we respond to them.
That's really profound, Pal. I know you and I have had the chance to geek out on our love and your friendship with Ryan Holiday and what he's doing with bringing Stoics to life. But I just hear so much of Seneca in what you're saying, of like the obstacle's the way, as Marcus Aurelius would say. We can't always control our outward circumstances. I think for many of us, especially those of us who maybe come from a place of privilege, that has never maybe been true until this pandemic in some way, right? Is that we feel compressed, we feel confined, and we're really learning that what we can control is our reactions to the world and how we interpret the world and how we show up in the world. But, I also know from my experience and having spoken with folks like you, we have this concept of you all as superstars, right? You're celebrities, you're world athletes, you've won so many tournaments, so many champions. But one thing that in just preparing with you and getting to know you has really impressed me is that there's such an openness to you and a vulnerability and a seeking out of help. And I'm wondering, Pau, if you can maybe just share for the audience, what does support look like when you're a professional athlete? Because you talk about making these transitions into uncertainty, but you share with me, you don't do that alone. You have a team of coaches and trainers helping you mentally and physically. Maybe you can just share that. And then what I'd love to dive into is to ask some questions about how those folks help you prepare for this uncertainty.
Well, in the world of sports, and I've been very lucky that my sport that I've been good and talented to play has had so many resources, and it generates so much wealth, which is not, it doesn't happen in every sport and nor the majority of sports. So you provided with a lot of tools and resources in order for you to perform at the highest possible level. And luckily, the last years now, I feel mental health has been a topic that it's been more openly discussed and more normalized, if you will. And it's not just so tabooed anymore, or it makes you look weak, or if there's something wrong with you. At the end of the day, athletes are human beings. We are athletically gifted, but we have feelings just like anyone else. We have, we're vulnerable just like anyone else. And we're exposed to a very unique environment, with its pros and cons. I think the level of pressure that you have to perform constantly, you're going to be criticized if you don't don't perform well or you fall short, and you're going to be praised and brought up like you're some type of god, or superhero when you know, score a lot of points or make a game winner. To remain balanced, it's so important. So it doesn't, you don't believe you're better than anyone else, even though there's a certain level of confidence that you have to have in order to perform at that level. But you gotta have a sense of humility at all times and keep your feet on the ground as much as possible. So teams do invest in a lot of resources now. I think nowadays, you know, you have sports psychologists in every team. You have a robust group of coaches, not just the head coach, but you have like 4 or 5 assistant coaches. You have like workout coaches. You have a training staff, a performance staff. You have the staff is bigger than the roster itself, and it's to provide that support. You know, earlier in my career, it was more the job of the assistant coaches, you know, to connect with the players, especially the younger ones, to teach them, to listen to them, to hear them out, to help them through the first part of their journey, right? But now you always, again, you'll have a sports psychologist around that will make himself or herself available to you at any point. You have team guided sessions with even when I was with the Lakers, we had team sessions with the sports psychologist once a month, and he would make himself available too if there was anything personal or individual. But for players in a world that is so competitive, that it's so testosterone oriented, that you can't show any weakness, any softness. You always have to be, you know, kind of like king in the jungle type of mindset. It's hard to say, hey, you know what, I need help. I'm struggling. I don't feel right. And now more and more players are coming out and talking about it, from different sports, and you talk to, you know, and to me, there's many examples, and we all kind of felt it in some type of way at some point. But to think about Michael Phelps and the documentary The Weight of Gold that he produced and led, and a guy that has won 26 gold medals or 20 some Olympic medals overall, or 30 plus, I don't even know, the most in the history, I think.
Right.
And the guy, and he shares how, you know, how he's struggled, how he had suicidal thoughts, and a guy that has been celebrated and admired for his performance. But it's, you know, it's very difficult to go through this, for a swimmer to go through this 4-year process where you have this a moment of shining that lasts for maybe 2 weeks, where all eyes are on you. And if you perform and you win gold medals, you're celebrated like you're this superhuman. But then the attention goes away, and then you have to go back into the pool. You got to go back into the work, and you got to go back through all that. Now that you set an expectation. So it's very tough, and I'm glad that again that it's been more discussed. The world of sports continues to provide tools for athletes to be healthy, to be in a good place, because they also, then you got to talk about what happens when you're done playing, when you're not an athlete anymore, when your body cannot sustain the grind of the elite. Now, what do? You know, and that's very important for athletes to understand. You know, you have to prepare, you have to educate yourself for that moment that is going to come inevitably. You just don't see it coming so soon, but it does, and it comes most of the time sooner than later. And you have to prepare, you know, because there's most of your life will come after. And a lot of athletes excel young in their career or in their life, in their teenage years, and they're not able to get the education that most people do get. So to prepare for that and go through that challenge of transitioning into a different stage that is going to be probably completely different, more under the radar and not with the same exposure and recognition that you did before, or that you've received before. So that's also a point of struggle for an athlete's career or life, for that matter. And not falling in love with an identity, with a title. That's also another part of it, So I don't identify myself as an NBA player. As a professional athlete, I've been able to do that for very long. I hope I can do it for a little longer, but that's not what defines me. You have to work on your roots, on your foundation of yourself, and have enough confidence and self-esteem that you're more than that, because otherwise it's just very hard to move on from it. So
that's really profound and so encouraging to hear from you. I think so many of us over-identify with our careers, and our careers aren't even on the platform internationally as you and your teammates. So it's so encouraging to hear from you that we're more than that, right? We're more than our job. We're more than our career. We really are human beings first, and we have to nurture and take care of our humanity, which will make us better at the job, certainly, but more importantly, it will make us better humans in the long run. Well, let's talk about this in the business context. In one sense, frontline managers at their companies play a similar role to some of the coaches you talked about in your support structure and on the court. They have to build a high-performance culture. They have to guide their teams through ups and downs, wins and losses. And, we talked about Phil Jackson earlier. So you've literally worked with maybe the greatest coach in history. And so I'd love to understand, what do you think these coaches did to bring out the best of you and everyone in your team, not just now and then, but consistently over long periods of time?
I think what Phil was great at, he and probably the best at, is managing individuals, managing egos, and making sure and understanding how to motivate, how to encourage each and every individual in a different way in order to get his best or her best, right? In our case, his best. So it was just great to see how he thought about it, how he approached it, how he motivated different people, different players. Again, in order for us to fulfill the role that we needed to the best of our abilities to help our team win a championship. And I think that's what made him so unique and so special as a coach, because he was able to do that. I also had a conversation with the soccer coach, one of probably the greatest soccer coaches, Pep Guardiola, coaches Manchester City. And he, at the end of the day, the greatest coaches are the best individual managers and team managers, because then you got to manage individuals and egos in a business where those egos are probably some of the biggest in the world, and I'm sure in the business world it's the same thing, right? CEOs, they have their own egos and they have their own wealth and their own power. So to be able to manage an executive team's just the same. So now you have to manage those egos, manage those individuals, and make them work as a team, as a unit, and kind of complementing skill sets in order to create a great culture. So I think that's some of the things that I've learned along the way, and kind of bringing people together to a common goal, making sure that egos don't get too out of control, and you make them work together, understanding that, if we had this quote, let me see if I quote it correctly, which he was like, the strength of the wolf lies in the pack, and the strength of the pack lies in the wolf. So we all interconnected, and we had that in our weight room. And Phil would hang these quotes in the weight room, in understanding that no matter how good Michael Jordan was, or how good Kobe Bryant was, without Jordan, without Pippen, without those teammates, without Paxson and Kerr and Rodman and Longley during those Bulls days, and Kukoc later too, and Kobe without Shaq, or without Derek Fisher, without Lamar Odom, without Bynum, without myself, we wouldn't win a championship. And that's that understanding, and that's where the triangle was so successful, because the ball moved and got away from the best players' hands and created a flow and a balance in offense. And then the ball would always gravitate towards the best player, but it would happen more towards the fourth quarter, when that best player would make the biggest difference because of his talent. And he wasn't so worn out because he had to take too many shots or spend too much energy during the earlier part of the game. Yeah. And that's when a player like Kobe, a player like Michael Jordan would completely make the biggest difference, and would take over and win the game, and become champions ultimately.
That's really cool. But yet, to your point, it's the team that wins the game, right? Because the team sets them up for that moment, and then they're able to lead in that moment.